Welcome into the Bear Squad Show. I'm Joe George, post-game host, and is Ben Johnson being overlooked as a candidate for Coach of the Year?
Taylor Dahl here, host of Making Monsters, and we got another stressful but beautiful fourth quarter comeback for Caleb Williams, and will we see any more?
And I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears. An opportunity this week for revenge. Clutch Caleb to get the last laugh against to what was clutch JJ McCarthy in week 1.
Bear down, Chicago. It's the Bears Squad. Everything Chicago Bears every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Windy City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From Soldier Field to the next great chapter, the Bears Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Bear Squad Show here on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel. I'm Joe George alongside Taylor Dahl and Lauren Cox, and we're here with you for the next hour to talk all things Chicago Bears. On today's show, we'll discuss Ben Johnson, where he stands right now as a Coach of the Year candidate, fourth on the odds currently. We'll discuss Caleb Williams' performance, where he ranks at the moment in the NFC North, because it feels like it's changing a little bit for a lot of people. And we'll have a little fun, too. We got to decide as a show collectively today, is it Houdini or Iceman? We'll get to that, and we'll preview the Vikings game as well. Lauren, it's good to see you. Welcome back. And, we'll start with you. I mean, we're looking at these Coach of the Year odds, and I've got Ben Johnson as the fourth in terms of these odds. It's Shane Steichen's in front of him, Mike McDonald, and then Mike Vrabel is the number one odds-on favorite to win Coach of the Year. That sound about right for Ben Johnson, who already has more wins this year than Matt Eberflus had last year?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm surprised about is how big the gap is from 3 to 4 in terms of the numbers there. I mean, depending on where you go, it's like the top 3 guys are all pretty close. Then there's a huge gap. Then there's Ben Johnson and Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. Like, I think fourth there generally makes sense given that the other 3 teams are having a little even more success than the Bears have, and I think they've looked a little bit more like complete and well-rounded, whereas I think from a Bears perspective, maybe nationally there's an idea of like they're kind of lucky, or they're scraping by, or they're just, they've been able to pull out these wins, but not in, it's only impressive because they were behind and losing to teams that maybe they shouldn't have been behind and losing to. So does that, not that the wins count for any less, but when it's for Coach of the Year conversation and like optics, they don't matter as much in the broader conversation.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, you talk about Seattle, and to me, Seattle and Colts are probably the 2 best, kind of most intimidating football teams right now in the NFL. And you talk about the completeness of them. They're able to run the ball. Seattle's defense is so nasty, and it's honestly really fun to watch them kind of bring back what we used to know the Seattle defense to be. But yeah, and then I think you talk about the Colts, and I don't know if anybody would have penciled in Daniel Jones to have the season that he's having right now. And there were conversations this offseason of how long until Daniel Jones is in and playing, but mainly that conversation was because people were like, Anthony Richardson's going to get hurt at some point, so Daniel Jones is going to have to come in and play. And the narrative's been so much different. And then I think you talk about Drake May. The conversation, I think Vrabel has done a fantastic job, and coming from someone, and you too, Joe, who also covers the AFC South. Fantastic. I'm glad the Titans got rid of Mike Vrabel, because I think he's a really good coach, and I love what he's been able to do there in New England. I do think that the schedule talk, and that's what a lot of people point to with the Bears too, is like, who have you really played? And you want to start seeing some of these guys, some of these teams, like they play the Bucks, and I think that's it. But the Bucks are very beat up right now. So I think, if you play the Bucks full, talking about New England, what does that look like? And their schedule outside of that has been pretty winnable. So I see some people maybe hesitating on that. But I think all 4 of these coaches right now, with what they've done, it's been fantastic to watch. And the Bears it's been a long time since they've had a coach where you feel like is going out there and has confidence in that quarterback, and that quarterback coach duo feels like it's actually working. So that's positive. I think Ben Johnson deserves to be in the conversation, but I get him sitting at that 4th spot right now.
Yeah, I think that the 4, you're right. Those are the 4. Like, it's nothing against Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, but all they do is win for their teams. I feel like the Coach of the Year should be, you either have some kind of adversity. Now, so I guess you can include Kyle Shanahan in that. They're the most injured team, it feels like, in the NFL every year.
Every year,
yeah. It's just like they can't stay healthy at all. But those 4, to me, seem like the best, candidacy. I will say, like, I would have Ben Johnson in front of Mike McDonald. We saw Sam Darnold have success last year with the Minnesota Vikings. We're seeing him honestly probably be better this year with Kubiak and crew calling the plays there. So I feel like the top three should be, Vrabel, Steichen, and Ben Johnson. And that's nothing against Mike McDonald. I would have him fourth. Like, I was surprised at what Lauren said when I looked at the odds to see this giant gap between Mike McDonald and Ben Johnson. But I don't know, guys, isn't it just nice to have a coach in the conversation again?
Yeah, definitely.
At this point.
And I think to Lauren's point that if the Seattle wasn't winning the way that Seattle's winning, it probably would be flopped. But I think because we're scraping out a couple some back-to-back close ones, almost blowing a lead and then having to come back and create some miracle stuff to win, which I put that some on coaching, honestly. I think that if you have a good coach, you're not giving up in the fourth quarter and you're able to win some of those close games. We had the stat before where Matt Eberflus was literally bottom 3 when it came to one-score games because you just couldn't pull, and so there's other factors in that we know. Some of it's Justin Fields fumbling or interceptions or whatever the case may be. But I do think at some point you just have to say, yes, you've got a coach that's in the talk of being there, and it doesn't feel fake. It feels real.
And among these 4 teams, the Bears are the only one that aren't top 10 in both offense and defense. Like there's going to be a little bit of a gap there, and it's largely because of the defense. But like Colts are number 1 and number 9. The Patriots are 8 and 6. The Seahawks are 3 and 5, and the Bears are 7th and then 28th in defense. And like, I don't think any of us are sitting here blaming Dennis Allen for that necessarily, or Ben Johnson by comparison. But like, there's just a certain level of like, those teams are pretty well rounded, even if they're not playing the strongest schedule. I mean, you look at the Seahawks, like they beat the Steelers in week 2. Otherwise, I mean, the Texans in week 7, but they beat up on their division is not the strongest outside of the Rams, and they haven't played the Rams, or they haven't beaten the Rams yet this season. I don't know if they played them at all. They play the Rams this week, actually. But so like the Bears have had to do a little bit more jumping through hoops there, but I think it's an appropriate ranking so far.
Well, and it's funny because you saying that almost makes me want to be like, well, that means I feel like Ben Johnson deserves it more because he's the offensive minded guy and you have a defense, the 28th defense in the league, and you're still able to win football games right now. So I feel like if anything, you give credit to Ben Johnson and play calling and what he's done with Caleb and some of the stuff that they've been able to do late in games, even when the defense is allowing offenses to do pretty much whatever they want to do.
All right. So I'm curious, Lauren and Taylor, as you watch the game back this weekend, because in the moment, I did feel during the game against the Giants that it wasn't Ben Johnson's best performance again. I don't think how it was a couple weeks ago, but it felt like, again, he went away from the run game for me a little bit in this game, too much when he was having success with it. Lauren, how do you evaluate just how he did in that Giants game, really basically until there in the fourth quarter when the Bears came back and got the victory?
Yeah, I agree with you that he got away from the running game, and you feel like you could have leaned on that a little bit more, but I could also see where, as the lead slips away more and more, there's a little bit more of a pressure to say, hey, let's get this rolling, especially because Caleb was throwing the ball well. They weren't catching it when he did throw the ball well all the time, but like, it wasn't as though, I was going to say, it wasn't as though the passing game wasn't working. I guess in some ways the passing game wasn't working because they weren't catching it, but like, it wasn't like the passing game was broken from a coaching standpoint, right? It wasn't like, oh, Caleb can't find anybody, or we can't get receivers open, or we can't block long enough for him to be able to make a play, or whatever it was. Like, I think the process was there for the passing game, even when the results weren't. So I understood wanting to kind of stick with that. And yeah, maybe it wasn't like as sharp as Ben Johnson had been the week before against the Bengals, where it felt like, everything he was cooking was working for them offensively. But I didn't think it was like a particularly bad Ben Johnson game either. I just thought it was kind of more in the middle.
Yeah, I'm always one of the people that I hate when play callers start to pull too far away from the run game. And I feel like I didn't totally feel that. I think that there was a sense to me that he felt like he needed to put this game in Caleb's hands once it got to a certain point. And I like that. I appreciate that. I feel like Ben Johnson has the confidence in Caleb, even with all of the drops, because to your point, I think Caleb was making some really, really good throws in this game. And you talk about the touchdown that could have been to DJ steps out, then the dropped one by Zacchaeus, and then there was a drop by Rome. That's 3. I want to say there was 6 in this game, but 3 that are crucial plays. And so I feel like Ben Johnson wanted to set, like, in his head was probably like, hey, this passing game is actually working. Eventually they've got to catch the ball. But it is interesting considering the type of game they're playing, and you're playing in a snowy, cold game. And usually that's when you do kind of lean on that run. But I feel like I'm not mad that he kind of leaned into the confidence in Caleb and what he felt like the passing game could do, because at the end of the day, I mean, it worked.
Yeah, it was the There's a lot of that game on Sunday that just made me excited about the future still about with Caleb and Ben Johnson. I think it does matter that he kind of checked that box of getting a kind of an ugly Chicago win under his belt. Like he knew how to call plays in the weather conditions, and it's going to be worse. We all know he's going to play. He's going to coach a game and it's a lot worse than it was on Sunday. But Caleb specifically, like seeing the zip still there on the ball in those weather conditions, I also wouldn't want to catch them, to be honest with you, with the way that he was throwing it. But it was good to see like that this offense can work outside of a dome, because it was one of my questions about Ben Johnson. It's just like, what does that look like when you've been in Detroit and now you're going into the elements in a city where who knows when you're going to have a dome? It might be 10 years at the pace that this thing is going right now. But that checked a good box for me, Lauren, over the weekend for sure.
The other good box that was checked for me was 3 penalties for 25 yards.
Yep.
Especially in a cold weather game like that, where you could imagine players aren't loving being out there with the snow, and maybe it's hard to hear with the wind and everything. I mean, you could come up with 1,000 excuses as to why that could lead to more penalties out there, but it didn't. And I still am going to need to see a couple of weeks in a row of that before I fully trust, like, oh, maybe they've solved this penalty issue. But like, that's coaching too. I mean, guys are finally getting some of the message there, and it feels like it's going through. But yeah, I do think that being able to stay ahead on the scoreboard and stick with the running game down the stretch is not something we've had the Bears really face this season yet so far. I mean, I guess maybe against the Cowboys, but that wasn't in a cold weather game. But every game has had to be either come from behind or you're so close throughout that they haven't really seen the opportunity to like put a game away and really control it that way.
Yeah, the penalty thing is funny because I feel like I've been so traumatized this year that every play I was like waiting for a flag to come out. I'm like, there has to be one coming. So yeah, I think that's something you want to continue to see that, because that has been one of the bigger issues. And when you're constantly going backwards, I think that has maybe in the weeks where we've criticized Ben Johnson, it has altered some of his game plan, because when you're starting behind the sticks constantly, whether that be already down or whether that be because your offense immediately gets a false start or a holding or whatever the case may be, and you're going backwards, that does alter things that you want to do. And to your point, Joe, when it comes to Caleb's arm, I was watching a clip from Collinsworth and he was talking about that specifically. And he was talking about the DJ throw, could have been a touchdown, I guess, but DJ didn't get his feet in. He goes, that ball had to have been like 45 miles per hour. And he was like, I know his hands are stinging after that. And I was like, oh yeah, I do not want to be having to be the one to catch those.
Yeah, he might have to be a little more friendly with some of these guys at some point. Maybe have some broken fingers here. The last thing I want to hit on with Ben Johnson, and kind of as we're talking about these drops and the things we're seeing, I did find some of his comments this week interesting about Luther Burden, just acknowledging how well he's playing, and that that uptick in his role is going to increase. I think when you match that with the Zaccheaus drops and the fact that Zaccheaus hasn't really been able to break open, the lack of DJ Moore in the offense this week, it does feel like Ben Johnson, Lauren, might be tipping his hand a little bit that we're going to see Luther Burden start to take that next step in the role for the Bears.
Well, you're just seeing that connection and comfort with Caleb grow quite a bit too. And I think that's been maybe well, I don't know, the biggest hurdle, but like the two big hurdles were like, how precise are your route running and timing going to be that Ben Johnson is satisfied with? And then also like, how well are you on the same page with your quarterback? But that deep curl route, or I don't know call it curl, but the stop route where Caleb's letting go of the ball well before Luther Burden has even turned around and looked back for him. Like, you can tell that those guys are getting a lot more on the same page to be able to anticipate where he's going to be and when the ball needs to be there at that time. And I think that's something that he picked up very quickly with Zaccheaus, but when Luther Burden misses all of OTAs and mandatory minicamp with injuries, and even is in a training camp, like, there's always going to be a longer runway to just building that with time and reps and energy there. That now I think, what are we, 8-9 weeks in the season now, or 10 weeks in the season, they've had enough time to kind of get on the same page there.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say like punishment, but it kind of feels like Ben Johnson was like, all right, like you wanted to play some of these games and during camp and it got you behind. And I always use that word perfectionist because that's what I've heard so much about Ben, that this is his way of proving that. Like I speak these things and I say that these are the things that I want when it comes to the timing of the routes and where your feet are supposed to be at this moment, and having that in sync feeling. And I feel like because you did lose time during camp, Ben Johnson really wanted to see that happening on the field, or I guess at practice first. And once that starts translating, he feels more comfortable. And so we've used that, and easing, I feel like, is not even the word to use anymore because we are 9 games in and week 10. But I think that's Ben Johnson staying true to his word of how he wants to coach these players and the level that they hold them and want to hold them accountable.
Yeah, I know. I'm ready for more of it.
Me
Like,
too.
you look
I
at
would love to see more Luther.
I mean, the two catches he had, I mean, like the one Lauren you were talking about, he like pushed the pylon or pushed the ball like 5 yards down the field. Just he's hard to bring down. We saw it multiple times in this game. It just feels like that's going to also break into some point of a little corner trying to tackle him, and he's going to break off that thing and just take it to the house on an easy play. Just feels like there's so much between, think back to the flea flicker and now the little routes and just being able to not get tackled easily, that Luther Burden, Roma Dunze, and Colston Loveland really feels like that room has emerged in a big way over the last 2 weeks. And as Roma Dunze said, thanks, Dad, for getting to the ball on the first drive, on the first play of the game on offense. All right, we'll take our first break here. When we get back, we'll talk more about Caleb Williams' performance, where we view him right now in terms of the NFC North, and we'll have some fun with our team decision on what we're going to call him going forward. We'll get to that next year on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. As the day gets shorter and the nights come earlier, it can start to feel a little heavier, especially when life is already packed with work, family, and everything else. This season, it's so important to reach out and check in with friends, family, or even yourself. Just like checking on a teammate or reconnecting with someone you haven't seen in a while can lift your spirits, reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. BetterHelp makes the first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. This month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it simple to take the first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon, because taking that step forward towards support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? Houdini or Iceman? That's the question. It feels like Iceman's running away with it, but people keep calling him Houdini the way it is. It feels like it's going to come down to one of those two. I think I'm going to take the other side. I think I like Houdini. I'm going to be honest. I think Houdini's the one that I want to go with for Caleb Williams. I get the Iceman one, but I just love the way he's getting out of all these sacks and embarrassing the Giants. And I don't see every defensive end it feels like he plays on a weekly basis. So I'm gonna establish myself as the pro team Houdini crowd for this one. Lauren?
I'm a little torn on this because honestly, I don't love either for different reasons. One, like from the Houdini side, like I think my initial gut reaction is with you on that, where it's like that feels like the cooler, more unique thing. Like there's plenty of clutch quarterbacks in the NFL. If he's the Iceman, I mean, if he's the Iceman, then what is Joe Burrow? What is Patrick Mahomes? What is Josh? Like, okay, a lot of the great quarterbacks are clutch, and that doesn't detract anything from Caleb Williams. It's just like less original or unique of like a characteristic of his. Whereas like there aren't, it's kind of him and Mahomes, and I guess Lamar Jackson and a couple others that can escape the sacks like this. But like the way that he does it is a little bit unique in terms of kind of the last minute heroics of getting out of it when you just think he's caught dead to rights there. On the other hand, I don't want my quarterback to have to be in that position all the time. Like, the more he has to be Houdini, the more risk of like either you're not blocking well enough or he's at harm's way. And I think it's mostly just like, it's not even a blocking issue right now. It's just like, hey, he's at risk of getting hurt every time he tries to escape one of those. And he still is getting sacked a couple times a game. And there's too much risk involved with him being Houdini that I don't want to like glorify it a little bit, because the one that he's not going to be able to escape is, there's going to be one that he's not able to escape that you just are like, oh no, like that's the big one. And, even Houdini, same kind of thing there. So like that leads to Iceman, but Iceman's kind of boring and not super original. I thought he was supposed to be Superman. I thought that was the whole thing. So I'm kind of stuck without a satisfactory nickname.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like the Houdini one like narrows it into one part of what Caleb Williams is, and I honestly think Houdini and I think Justin Fields, because like that's my mind goes to that and some of the crazy ways he would escape pressures and stuff. And so I feel like, to Lauren's point, I don't know what word captures everything that Caleb Williams is or is on trending to be, I guess is the better way to put it. I know the team, we heard the Iceman from the team, and I understand that one, especially because you're going to, the 4 comebacks this season, before fourth quarter comebacks this season. And so that's one of those clutch moments that you're talking about. And I feel like that is something that he is right now. I feel like we're still in search for what the Caleb nickname is. I feel like you can't do Superman because that's Cam Newton. Like, I feel like that's the Cam thing. So I think we're at the beginning of finding out what Caleb Williams is, but feels like the locker room really wants to run away with that Iceman thing. And it's funny, the ECHL team here in Jacksonville is called the Icemen. So that's all I think about when that's being said. So I think I'm with Lauren, where I'm like, I don't love either, but I think I love that we have a quarterback that we can call both of those things.
Yeah. One thing about Iceman that's sticking with me is, like, at least you get sort of like the geographical, like, yeah, it's cold here, right? It's not just like, there's ice, like doing it in the snow, in the Chicago weather. Like, not every quarterback gets to be Iceman. Like, you have to be a northern state type of. It feels like you have to basically play for the Packers or the Bears, or
Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo. Like, even Baltimore. I know Baltimore gets cold, but like, it just doesn't. Especially being on the East Coast, there, like, it just doesn't have quite the same like cold weather, snowy kind of reputation there. Like, Steelers, Bills, Packers, Bears quarterbacks get to be Icemen, and right now he's the only one. Well, I guess Josh Allen is in that conversation, but with the more he struggles, the more Caleb can really be Iceman.
Yeah. All right, let's get to what we saw over the weekend. And you mentioned the fourth quarter comebacks there, Taylor. And I went through on one of the episodes I was filling in for Lauren on this week. And so I found 11 different instances already in Caleb's career where he has had the ball in his hands to drive the Bears into position to win a game, tie a game, get it to overtime. And only 2 of them so far, he's really faltered. Like, there was a 5-and-out drive against the Texans, and there was one interception last year against the Seahawks where he didn't put, he made a mistake and cost the Bears the chance to win. But he's had all these opportunities, and a lot of times he's won. He's got them there. And then the Packers block the field goal, or you lose in overtime, or the Hail Mary. But this year, that's not happening. When you watch this one play out, Taylor, I'm just curious your thoughts on what you saw from Caleb on both those, clutch drives from him.
Yeah, I think that if you're talking about a quarterback, you give that 9 for 11 number to anybody, and I think they'd take it. And that's one of the things and he's doing it different ways. I think that's the most fun thing for me to watch about Caleb, because, this last game, obviously we see it where he takes off and runs when he needs to, which also felt again where there was like an extra notch of speed in that run, which we see sometimes this season. Like, early on in the season, I remember, like, I don't remember him being this fast, but all of a sudden it feels like he has this extra gear sometimes when he takes off. So you've seen those moments, but then you've also seen the big throw moments. And then you've seen the Ben Johnson more felt like scheming things up moments where the defense looks so confused. That Roma Dunze touchdown on Sunday, the defense had no idea what was happening on that. They're looking around like, what is happening on this play? And so I think some of that is credit to Caleb too, because I feel like we're seeing week by week understanding this playbook and executing the playbook. And I think we've seen quarterbacks in the past, or quarterback coach combos in the past, who you have these plays and they're just not executed properly, or the plays aren't good, and like the players have to try and do too much and then things don't work. And I think we're seeing this combination of everything right now. But that's my favorite part of it, is it's not like we're seeing Caleb Williams have to play Houdini and run and a scrape and scramble and magically get 40 yards and all of these comebacks. We're seeing him different ways. We're seeing clutch throws. We're seeing big plays by Colston bopping into defensemen and getting those extra yards. We're seeing running backs get big, getting the yardage when they need to. But I think the best part is that it's not predictable. It's not like, okay, Caleb has the ball, it's 3rd and 14. If he doesn't get a first down, then the Bears lose. And we know he's about to just take off and run. There's 5 billion different things that you can expect, and he's able to execute all of those things right now, it feels like, in those big moments. And that, for me, what I feel like is most exciting.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. Like, I think there's just an ease to it that is so reassuring, right? It's not like you're relying on like that one-handed catch that Darius Slayton made for the Giants there, right? Where it's just like, you tip your cap to him, but like, he's not going to do that 10 times, out of 10 of the 10 next times, like he's going to do that, twice out of 10 times. So like, you feel like the plays like that, they're lucky. It's not like you're relying on, these kind of fluky moments of like, the defender slipped and fell, and so he was wide open and that's what you're able to do. It's like, no, you're pretty consistently driving the ball downfield, and it's not even like a deep bomb, but it's 10 yards here, it's 18 yards there, it's 20 yards there, it's a scramble for 17 here. Like, it's these sort of consistent chunk plays that you feel like are replicable and that you build upon. And like, there's just this confidence that even when it's 3rd and 10 on that first of those last two drives, they're going to find a way to get it done. Even if it's not all 10 yards on that 3rd down, there's just this confidence of like, no, they've got this. Like, they're going to find a way to finish this drive, at least with points and probably a touchdown, and probably get the ball back and probably score again. Like, they're undoing so much like PTSD trauma. Like, how are they going to find a way to lose this one? Like, I think I trust them again, and I'm ready to be hurt. I don't know.
No, I'm there. Like, it's strange. It's strange to watch the Bears and feel like, oh, like there's a level of, as you said, calmness. Of like, okay, like they're gonna score. The Giants are gonna be the team that shanked the punt, and then they're gonna get the ball and they're gonna go down there and score again. And Caleb's gonna do it. I think it was a great point, Taylor. Like Caleb and the offense are gonna do it in so many different ways. Like, they can use the running game, Caleb's legs, the throwing game, like the deep stuff, the middle stuff. They're finding a way to be in all these positions in these 4 comeback wins this year, where they're not getting, like Lauren said, lucky. Like, they're putting themselves in position by the skill, by the play calling. They're set up for success in such a big way. And I think my favorite play of all of them was the running touchdown. But I think it's for what Greg Olson pointed out on the broadcast, was like how, Cole Kmet's open. Caleb can throw it to him, and Cole Kmet probably doesn't score a touchdown, but he gets a first down. But Cole Kmet is already now at the point where he's on the same page with Caleb Williams. And you can tell he knows Caleb's going to run the football, and he turns upfield and just blocks his way into the end zone. Cole Kmet, 2 great blocks in this game, the one on the Monungai run too. Mm-hmm. But to see like that relationship, building there, and like in the scramble drill of having like your veteran player, was really special to see. I am blown away by what we're seeing in the 4th quarter from the Bears right now.
Yeah, I would like to see 4 quarters of it, but
yes, please.
I'll take what you have right now, because I think there's clearly last year it was complete opposite. You would get to the 4th quarter and you would just be like, what's going to happen? What drop, what penalty, what overthrow, what interception, what fumble, what missed field goal, whatever the case may be. You were waiting for one of those things to happen. And I saw this clip from a guy leaving the game this last week, at a Bears fan, and he's walking out and he's like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, like, I wasn't worried. The moment the Bears got the ball, I was like, that Bear, like, Caleb's going to go down and score, and we're going to win this game. And that is so different from what we felt for a long time. Now, I don't know how long you live on that, how long you live on being able to survive games, especially with this stretch of games coming up. You're definitely getting into the tougher part of your schedule. And part of that is because Lamar Jackson didn't play, and you've played some teams who didn't have their starting quarterback. So that alters what those games would have looked like, what they looked like they should have been before the season. So, but you need to start stretching this out and make it to where you feel like, even give me 2 quarters, like, let's do a half. Let's start there instead of just the final 4th quarter. And Caleb, someone asked Caleb today, which I feel like it's kind of weird. Maybe Lauren, who asked the question, but they asked, why can you play so well? I don't remember the exact wording of it, but why do you play so well in the final 5 minutes of a game, but you can't do that for an entirety of a game? Weird way to ask that question, but I mean, honestly, how do we get to that point where you feel like some of those things that he does so well in those final 5 minutes start to happen throughout the game as a whole? That's the next step I think we have for Caleb Williams.
And I think there's a big part of this conversation that involves the defense too, right? I mean, you talk about the ability to come back and be clutch. Like, part of, I don't know that, I think the offensive part feels sustainable for me, that like, yeah, if you're down in the 4th quarter, I trust that Caleb is going to be able to get the ball back and drive down and score. What I don't always trust is that if you need 2 scores, the defense is going to make the stop in between. And I think that's part of what happened late in this game against the Giants, right? They get a stop to keep it at 20-10. And then Caleb drives down and score to make it 2017, but then they get another stop. They sack Russell Wilson when he's trying to scramble and they sort of sacked him. He was trying to take off at the middle, and then they sack him on 3rd down. And when the defense is able to come up and make those clutch stops, like, that's the part I don't currently trust well enough to count on every single week. But the offense, I feel confident enough that like they can find ways to get the job done, even if they have some struggles early in the game.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add to what Taylor was saying and what you guys are saying is I think I've been really impressed with how the games have started. Like the on script, the scripted plays have gone really well, and then the end of the game has gone well. So it's everything like after that first drive until the fourth quarter starts, just like has to be elevated a little bit. There's been games where it's been good, but I think collectively, as we're all saying, like it just needs to improve as the schedule does get tougher and you play better teams. Like you have to find a way to put up more points in the second and third quarter to really be able to advance to the season of where you want it to go. And we'll get to that a little bit in the next segment. We'll hit on first after our break of where we view the NFC North quarterbacks right now, but then feels like the standards have changed for the Bears season. They're at 6 wins. So what's a successful season now for the Bears in 2025? We'll get to that next year on the Bears Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on the job, where every detail matters. And their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line by visiting supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Taylor, I'll start this one with you. What's your quarterback power rankings right now in the NFC North?
Oh no. So I'm gonna be bold with this, and I think it's Goff, Caleb, Love, McCarthy. I think I've never been super impressed by Jordan Love, and I know there's all these like deep analytics that show him at the top of all these categories, but to me, the just straight eye test, I don't see anything absolutely incredible where I feel like he's an unbeatable quarterback. He, to me, doesn't have anything extra. Like when you talk about Caleb Williams, we talk about the Houdini side of Caleb Williams. I think there's a lot of improvements Caleb still needs to make. And so I could probably flop these things and say, put Love there just because I feel like Caleb does need, the accuracy I think still needs to get a little better at times. Some of the decision-making, you'd like to be a little timely wise. Work on those, but I just feel like because he can do some of those extra stuff when it comes to his legs, when it comes to getting out of and creating time, and we've seen this year just that pressure to sack ratio and how much better. I think it was like 38% last year. It's down to like 13% this year. That's huge. That's something massive that last year was really hindering of some of the things that you would expect out of Caleb Williams. And to me, I feel like even under pressure, when you do see him have to start moving around and get out of the pocket, he's still able to do things well. And I think that's one of the things Jordan Love is not good at. We saw it on Monday night. When he is pressured, he gets into full panic mode, I feel like, and a lot of mistakes start to happen, and Jordan Love kind of unravels in those moments. So I've never been the biggest Jordan Love fan, and maybe this is also me being a hater, and that's feeding into this. But I've just never been super impressed by him, and I think that he's fine. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he does anything extra special, and for me, that puts it at that third. I think you have to put Goff first just because of what he's consistently been able to do over these last few years, and the big thing was Ben Johnson's gone, and obviously we saw Dan Campbell take over play calling now, so we'll see. We're probably going to see even an uptick from what we've seen of Jared Goff even to start the season in the first half of the season. And then I think JJ McCarthy, I think JJ can be a good quarterback. I just don't know if we've really been able to see it yet. I do think there's factors into that. Their offensive line's been super beat up. So he's not working behind the best line, which I feel like if we're going to give Caleb some of that, leeway like we did last year, then you got to give the slack to JJ McCarthy too. But you also have Justin Jefferson, which is definitely someone that helps you out when you in that area. So I do think that that's where I would put it right now. If you ask me now this weekend, that could flip because I feel like that's kind of where we are with the NFC North other than Jared Goff at the top.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of the analysis you said there as far as Caleb and Jordan Love back to back. I would put Love 2 and Caleb 3 right now today, But I think everything you described is clearly like Caleb Williams has the higher ceiling. And I think we're all fully expecting that Caleb Williams will be the better quarterback and the more successful quarterback, at least individually. We'll see how other teams do, but like the more talented quarterback is Caleb Williams. But I think right now, Jordan Love is maybe the more consistent quarterback for 4 quarters. I realize the recency of just watching the Eagles game and then just watching Caleb come back against the Giants. You're like, well, what do you mean? Jordan just had a bad game and Caleb just played great. Yes, I agree. But I think like over the course of the season, like Jordan Love has been a little bit more consistent. And I don't think we give enough credit / blame for the Packers offensive line's been injured and not playing super well. And their receivers are dropping a lot of passes and not playing super well. And like they have not built a super strong offense around Jordan Love, and he's still been able to have quite a bit of success this season. I'm not even that big of a Jordan Love fan. I don't believe in him as like the long-term franchise quarterback that's going to lead the Packers to the Super Bowl by any means. But I think like today, right now, I lean Jordan Love, but 8 more weeks this season, I could see that one flipping for me. Like I think that these two are pretty neck and neck right now. Jared Goff definitely number 1, JJ McCarthy definitely number 4, and then Caleb and Love is a little bit more of a coin toss that I lean Jordan Love right now. Like I think if you put Jordan Love with Ben Johnson and with these receivers and with some time, like he could be just as good, if not even a little better than Caleb is right now. But I think over time, Caleb can and will be the better quarterback in the long term.
Yeah, I think it's very close. I'm with you guys. Like I think it's very, very close of where these quarterbacks are at. And I lean Caleb too, but I think it's by a margin, like a small margin right now. And it is hard not to feel, biased because of how the Eagles game went. But there's been multiple games this year that Jordan Love hasn't looked, and the Panthers game and the Browns game. Like it's looked so bad. And Caleb's obviously had his bad games too. But I think it's very close. And I do think if Love is 2 right now for you, I don't think he will be by the end of the season because the way it's playing. And I mean, I'm surprised. I'm hopeful that Packers fans get their wish and LaFleur gets fired. I think that'd be great. I think that'd be great. He's a great coach, so get him out of here. Like leave the North, please. I'd have no problem with that. But I think it's very close right now. But I lean Caleb too, with Love then at 3. What is the success?
Sorry. Real quick. If the Bears had the Packers defense right now, how many do you think they'd have like another win or 2?
I think they'd have probably 1 more.
But, so would have lost to the Lions, but would it be?
Yeah, probably Baltimore, honestly. Yeah. Like I think Baltimore goes.
Maybe the Vikings week 1 you beat with a slightly better defense. Like it took your absolute heroics at the end. Yeah, I'm with you there. Like 1.5 more wins defense for sure.
And that half is maybe less of a stressful win that they've already gotten this year. Like maybe instead of a headache and the heart moving as much, it's a calmer victory this season. Yeah.
I think a lot of these like 1 point and 1 score games are a bit wider, right? The 1 point games become 3 or 5 point games, and the 6 point games become 10 point games. Like I think all the wins feel better, and then you add 1 or so.
All right, so the Bears are at 6 wins now, already past last year's total, which is awesome for so many reasons. Yeah. It's part of the reason where we started this conversation of why Ben Johnson is a coach of the year candidate, and to eclipse a team like last year. And if it's going to continue to grow, it's going to help his candidacy. But it does feel like the bar is changing a little bit. You look at the standings, you see the Bears are the 6th seed right now, which is incredible to see. Now, their playoff percentage chances, depending on the website you use, like The Athletic will say the Bears have a 31% chance to make the playoffs right now. But what is a successful season now at this point? You've won 6 games. You're in the thick of the playoff race. We've asked for the in the hunt graphic. That box is checked for the rest of the season, basically, unless a disaster happens. So what's a successful season look like for you, Taylor?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember having this conversation in the beginning, and Lauren, you and I had a similar sentiment of it kind of depends individual performances at a certain point. Like you want a successful season as you wanted to see Caleb get better. You wanted to see the development of Caleb Williams shine. You wanted to see that relationship between Ben Johnson and Caleb really work. You wanted to see some of the biggest flaws of last year. And there was a lot of them. The list is 100 miles long, but you wanted to see, him not holding the ball so long. You wanted to see some of the decision-making get better. You wanted to see the run game get better. You wanted to see the offensive line get better. I think offensively, you're almost checking off every box that you were concerned about last year. Then you look at the defense, and there's been a lot of issues defensively. And I think a lot of that, though, I don't know if we're having the same conversation if Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon have played every game this season. And I think just those two players alone make such a difference on your defense that I really do think that the conversation's completely different. So I don't know if that is even going to be tied, because I think at the end of the season, let's say you're at 6 wins. Let's say you win 9, which I think was my prediction before the season, that the Bears would win 9 games differently than how they have, but whatever it is. If they win 9 games, I think I would still be okay. I would be happy. And I think because of the way that the offense has improved throughout the season and the good things we are seeing out of not just Caleb, but an offensive line that I finally am like, okay, even you're still getting sacked a couple times a game, but they're still doing so many good things. You're seeing Darnell Wright just absolutely annihilate guys, and it's so fun to watch. And now you just look at it and you're like, all right, get a left tackle, and you could have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And so those things to me, I think, point to me being satisfied. Would I love to get into the playoffs and win a playoff game? Absolutely. And I think honestly the team has the ability to do so, especially if Jalen and Kyler come back and can fit in and kind of play the roles that we know that they can play. But I do think looking at the schedule ahead and the way that the defense is beat up, I think you have to be a little realistic of what the end of this season could look like, merely because of that. I think the offense is going to be able to score points, and I think we're going to still be talking about maybe some closer games, some stressful games, but because the defense, we're not going to be able to really hold up, and still lack of pass rush. So let's work on that this offseason. So it's hard for me to say an exact number or what needs to happen, because I honestly, at this point, if the season were to end right now and the Bears don't make the playoffs, if they didn't make the playoffs, I'd still be like, I'm happy. Like, I feel like this is a successful season because everything that I wanted to see happen offensively has started to happen. And defense, I think you could fix. You go get a good pass rusher and you get your corners back healthy, probably dig into that a little bit this offseason, get another corner, get another safety. And we're talking about a team where I really feel like can compete with anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, that's I think we talked about leading into the season. Like, this year was less about the win number per se and the playoffs or not, but like getting ready and feeling ready that like, oh yeah, 2026 is going to be their year. Like, you have to get through this season feeling like you're one off season away, and you just need a piece here, a piece there, and a little bit more time of everybody working together, and that you can. They want to go all in just on next year, but like that your championship window opens in 2026. And I'm with you that it feels like we're on the precipice of that right now. That like, yeah, there's probably more that needs to be fixed right now than maybe we thought there would be, in terms of thought the pass rush might be better. We didn't think the secondary would be so injured and banged up, and maybe there's some long-term questions about durability there. And, might have to change a linebacker, or a left tackle is a bigger problem now. There's stuff to fix still, and maybe more than we wanted there to be. But like, I'm not so worried of like, yeah, if they go 3-5 over these final, 8 games of the season, I think there's going to be a feeling of like, wow, they started 6-3 and finished 3-5. Are they on the downswing? In Ben Johnson's year, did they underwhelm down the stretch? And I think you're right that it's a lot more about the schedule getting tougher than it is about the team particularly playing worse. I mean, I like to look at these final 8 games and say, okay, 4 division games. Could you go 2-2 with 2 Packers games, a Lions and a Vikings game? Like, beat the Packers once and then beat the Lions or Vikings, one of them once, and maybe you lose the other 2. Like, I don't think that's the end of the world. And then your 4 non-conference games, Steelers, Eagles are both really tough. Browns should be an easy win, and the 49ers, we'll see how healthy they are, but you can get at least 2 of those, and maybe, a coin flip on one. Like, I think there's a real possibility that this can still be a 10-win team in the postseason. I just don't know that they have to be for this to be a success. Like, just feeling good about the direction of the organization, that your quarterback is set and your head coach is set. I guess maybe we won't be so sure if the general manager is set, but I think there's still a long-term optimism there.
Yeah, I think 9-8 is a successful season, but I want 10 wins at this point. And it's what you just went through, Lauren. Like, I want to see the Bears split the division games. You got to beat Minnesota once this year. You got to beat Green Bay once this year, and I'd really like you to beat Detroit once this year. But if you go 2-2 in those, you feel good about it. That gets you to 8 wins. The Browns, easy win. Like, whoever the quarterback is, it could be Deshaun Watson by the time you play. It could be Shedeur Sanders. Like, who knows who's gonna be the quarterback?
That quarterback.
So that puts you at 9, and I would love to, like, the ending of last season, like getting that win at Lambeau with Caleb. It feel like it just did so much for the fan base. I feel like a win over Aaron Rodgers does the same thing. like just getting that win, even if he's a little banged up. So like I would love to get to 10 wins this year. And I will say I would be slightly disappointed at this point in the season if they don't. Like I think the Bears going 500 the rest of the year is something they can accomplish. It doesn't mean it's not a big disappointment or a failure or anything like that, but I would be a little bummed if they don't get to 10 wins at this point, just because I think they can. Like I would like to see them take that next step versus the quality of opponents that they're about to face.
Do you think at 6-3 right now, like how much do you think they've overachieved? I mean, I think we can all agree that they've been better than we thought they would be, but like from a record standpoint, right? If they start 6-3 and finish the final 8 games 3-5 or 4-4, like that feels like a step back because they overachieve. Like what record should, quote unquote, should they have right now if they weren't overachieving? Like I really, not necessarily saying like which of the games that they played should they have
lose,
but which of the games did we not expect them to win that sort of balances out where the season might end that way.
I would kind of look at like 5-4. Like I think they've overachieved by like a game so far. Specifically, like it's hard to not look at 25 to 24 wins in back-to-back weeks and be like, he probably shouldn't have won. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have won one of those games. Like one of those things should probably have not gone your way, and like those are the breaks that you got. So I think like if overachieving, I'd say just by like a game so far. So they're right on pace with like a 500 team then.
Yeah, and I think that when I remember looking and like going through the schedule preseason, and you go through your wins and losses, and granted, you're not accounting for what injuries are going to be in that, so things look different. The Dallas game preseason, I wouldn't have had as a win personally, and I think that the way they dominated that game, granted, it's one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and I don't know if I was expecting that to happen. It frustrates me so much because I really feel like they should have, obviously could have, but should have won week 1 against the Vikings. And then right now you're talking about a 7-3 team. And that I think frustrates me the most, because I feel like if you're at that, then you're already talking about, okay, you split the rest of the division. And at that point you're already at, you're sitting at 9 wins, and you need one more win out of that final stretch of games. So I do think though that if we're talking about the overachieving, especially if you were to tell somebody the way the defense was playing, like if you were to tell us at the beginning of the year, what do you think the Bears record will be? No Jalen Johnson, no Kyler Gordon. A lot of the guys have been beat up. The Bears allow, top 5 most yards, top 5 most points a game. And defensively, they really can't do anything except get turnovers throughout the game. I wouldn't have believed that they are 6-3 at this point, because I still thought that we needed the defense in certain areas to help. And you really haven't a ton. And I mean, Lauren, you mentioned this last game, they did have the back-to-back stops to help in that fourth quarter. But for the most part, you really haven't been able to rely on the defense being able to do a whole lot. And that to me was going to be the storyline. I was like, this is going to be perfect because Caleb has all these weapons and he has Ben Johnson, and we're going to be able to, you're not going to have to score 25 points because the defense is going to help you out. So the offense can have off days and you'll still be able to win. And that hasn't been the story. So to me, that's where the overachieving comes in, because you're winning despite what your strength has been for the last 25 years, not being even a top 25 defense right now.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird looking at the Bears and being like, hey, they got like TJ Edwards is out. They got a linebacker problem because of TJ Edwards. Like, I'm like, where's Brian Urlacher coming in to save the day with this his new hair and all that stuff that he's still got going on. We'll take our final break here. When we get back, we'll preview that Vikings game. We'll see who's at quarterback. Like, it feels like it's JJ McCarthy, but he lands on the injury report on Wednesday. So we'll get to that next year on the Bears Squad Show.
The Bears Squad Show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. We're more than halfway through the NFL season, but now the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Because even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to the fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps everything exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, guys, we got the Vikings game coming up this weekend versus J.J. McCarthy. Now, J.J. McCarthy lands on the injury report on Wednesday, limited in practice with his hand. I don't know if we have to start treating injury reports like they don't matter on Wednesday because they look terrifying from Ben Johnson every single week. The amount of did not practices for the second week in a row is it's alarming. But after last week, I have to realize like it doesn't matter anymore. Like he just gives everyone a rest day on Wednesday. So we'll see with JJ McCarthy. Like he has been hurt a couple times already now as a rookie, but my gut is that he's going to play. So Lauren, what's your view of this weekend and how the Bears come out of it?
Yeah, I mean, if JJ McCarthy doesn't play, then we're going to see either John Wolford or Max Brosmer. So, like,
awesome.
You don't need to prepare for that possibility because you win the W right away there. But no, I mean, as far as the Vikings, I think the bigger story for me, right, is the matchup against Brian Flores' defense. Like, I realize that the Bears defense is bad, and that JJ McCarthy had the really clutch fourth quarter comeback against them back in week 1. They put up 21 points, but like. They had his number, I mean, all over throughout the first 3 quarters of that game. He could do absolutely nothing. They were sacking him. They were intercepting him. They were really confusing him. And I think the way that Dennis Allen has been able to even expand that through the course of the season, like week 1, they were dabbling in some different blitzes and some different fronts, but like he could only do so much because everyone was still kind of learning the system and they had injuries up front. But like now, I mean, especially what we saw against the Giants and Jackson Dart, like he can dial up blitzes from a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different areas. CJ Gardner-Johnson is getting home on sacks. Like Jaquan Brisker's coming off the edge. They're putting defensive linemen up and down the line of scrimmage. I'm not going to say that I'm super confident that like the Bears defense is going to shut down the Vikings offense and that they're not going to score points. Just more so that I think Dennis Allen can make JJ McCarthy's life difficult enough to keep them against the Giants. And then it's just on this Bears offense to be able to put up enough points against Brian Flores' defense. And it'll be a really good test of some of Caleb Williams' progress to this point.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. 2 names that landed on their injury report too, Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel. Keep that man away from my quarterback. That he gets on my nerves. I felt like the blonde flowy locks that whole week 1 was what was the most aggravating. That's a neck injury, so we'll see. He was limited. Jonathan Grenard though did not practice. So those are 2 names obviously to keep an eye on throughout the week, but Brian Flores is a genius when you talk about blitzing, and that's one of the things that he does crazy. He sends like 7, 8 guys sometimes, and it's a lot. So I do think that now having that week 1, they can go back and see some of the things that they were doing, what he was disguising, some of those things. So I do think it's beneficial in that light, but it does still worry me because I feel like the Bears have struggled once they are facing those defenses that really know how to get pressure. And even with the Raiders, for example, and they pretty much only have Max Crosby, and he was eating Caleb Williams alive that game. And so I do think that's something to focus on. Another thing that really sticks out to me is obviously the Bears defense has struggled against the run, but Vikings defense hasn't been good against the run either. They've allowed a ton of rushing yards. And I think that this is a game that you really could kind of lean into that a little bit. And we talked last week, maybe we felt like he abandoned the run at certain points of that game. I could see this being a game where you really can get the run game going. And because of that, it opens up a lot of things for Caleb Williams and some of these other weapons, and maybe a Luther Burden day that we've all been waiting for.
The good news is over the last 4 weeks, the Vikings defense has given up 28 points, 37 points, 24 points, and 27 points. The problem is it's been the Eagles, Chargers, Lions, and Ravens. So they've been good offenses. And some of that has been a number of
good offense, Lauren.
has been JJ McCarthy, that their offense puts their defense in a bad spot. But the good news there, I guess, is that the Vikings defense only has 2 turnovers in the last 6 games. So there's a feeling like there's some vulnerability here. And I do trust that Ben Johnson can come up with a plan that worked. I mean, they got 24 points on him in week 1, and the Bears offense is leaps and bounds better now than it was back then.
Yeah, the real quick off of that, because the turnover differential, I was looking at that before it show actually. The Vikings have a -7 turnover differential, and the Bears have a +14. So that's a massive difference in that number. If you can lean into that heavily this week, then you can beat them by more than just a last-second field goal if you can lean into that number.
Yeah, I think for me, this game, it's, I think the injuries with Grenard and them are really important for this one to try to help Caleb Williams out a little bit. But I'm excited for this game more than I've been excited for a Bears game most of the season, because this to me is the one where like it's the real test. It's the real test of what happened in week 1, what went wrong, And where does Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams go for here? Like, this is, to me, like, this is the next big test for the Bears, of just like that growth, that development, the things that are working so well for this offense. The run game, as you guys mentioned, it's so different. Kalman guy, did he have a carry week 1? Like,
I don't think
like,
so.
Yeah, like it's a totally different ball game now with what the Bears are doing offensively. Colston Loveland wasn't involved, Burden wasn't involved. So it's like, how does this team grow from week 1 to
The line
now?
was bad.
Yeah, the line was bad. So that I'm excited about this game, just to see like what kind of real growth. Because if the Bears go out there and they do what these good offensives done against the Vikings defense the last couple weeks, I think it changes the bar again a little bit for the Bears, because then it's real tangible growth for the Bears. So I can't wait for this weekend. And plus, I think JJ McCarthy is struggling. You can take advantage is the nicest way to put it.
I mean, we thought that in week 1 and it wasn't enough. I mean, they did
That's true.
take advantage in week 1 and it wasn't enough. So yeah, I'm with you there. And I do think from a growth standpoint, like, we have seen defensive coordinators be willing to blitz Caleb Williams a lot this season. And I think even in week 1, Flores he blitzed him plenty, but didn't go over the top aggressive against. Like, they were a little bit more willing to sim pressure and sit back and rush 4 a little bit more than you might have expected. I was just looking back at the numbers last week against Lamar Jackson. The Vikings blitzed like 75% of their defensive snaps. Wow. Caleb's been getting it about 30-ish% of this time this season, and against the Vikings in week 1, it was about 40%. So like, the Bears have had some practice with blitzes coming after this offensive line. They've been able to pick it up and be improved. I'm curious if Flores dials that up, because that's been his strategy to keep mobile quarterbacks in the pocket, is just say, hey, you're not going to be able to escape our blitz if we blitz you all the time, so you don't beat us as much with your legs. And now that Caleb's been using more of that, does he dial up the blitz more, or does he say, no, the 4-man rush was able to do it more effectively back in week 1, and we still trust that even as this Bears offensive line has settled in a little bit more, there's a weakness at left tackle there, and then maybe they can dial up some less aggressive stuff to still get home and still, generate the pressure with, if Van Ginkel and Grenard are good to go, maybe you don't have to blitz as much and say, hey, we can try and force them to beat us with his arm a little bit more than his legs.
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking too. He only actually got sacked 2 times that game, but it felt like so much more. But I think that's like the genius of a Brian Flores defense, is you just feel even if they're not getting to the quarter or getting the quarterback on the ground, they're still able to do so many other things, get him uncomfortable in the pocket, force some bad decisions, get him off his mark. And they know, especially the whole conversation with Caleb is some of those things early on in the season, they knew what the struggles were from last year. Those are things we've started to see settle down when it comes to pocket awareness, when it comes to when to leave, not to leave, when to get rid of the ball, when to not take a sack. Those things have significantly gotten better throughout this season. And so I do think that Brian Flores has to be watching film and seeing that. So it will be interesting to see how he really handles this weekend.
All right, Bears are 3.5-point underdogs in this game at Minnesota. The line's 48.5. So it feels like that's a good amount of points, and this one expected to be scored at least. Taylor, what's your thoughts on if the Bears get the win this weekend?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go like I'm gonna say Bears win. I think it's gonna be a close one. Every week I say I wish it's not going to be, and then it is, and so I'm just gonna have to deal with that's the world we're living in right now. So I want to say probably like I guess I'll say like 30-27.
Okay, Lauren.
This one's a coin toss game for me completely. I would not be super surprised if the Vikings win again. I would not be super surprised if the Bears find a way to win. I don't trust JJ McCarthy, but they did just beat the Lions 2 games ago. Like, I mean, they are finding ways to play some good football, but health is going to be a really big factor for me here for both teams, right? Like if Van Ginkel and Grenard play and the Bears are a little bit more banged up, it goes Vikings for me. But if the Bears Wednesday injury report is again a bit of a mirage and they turn out to be a lot healthier, the receivers are all fine, the linebackers are good to go, like then I think the Bears can win. And I realize that's not really an answer. So I guess I'm still beat up enough by this Bears team. Like they were down by 10 to the Giants in the fourth quarter last week.
Yeah.
Yes, they're winning these games, but like you can't play that way against these divisional opponents and still win. So I'll lean Vikings victory, but I don't feel good about it either way.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Vikings as well on this one, unfortunately, but it's because we saw some not great body language, I would call it, from Justin Jefferson in this last game. Didn't look super thrilled with some of the things, that interception. His effort after the pick was not great. So I feel like Justin Jefferson's going to be a man on a mission in this game, and that alone makes me nervous because he's awesome. So I'm leaning Vikings. I think it's a close one. I don't think the Bears get blown out or anything like that, but I hope I'm wrong and the Bears find a way to get the victory this weekend in Minnesota as their schedule gets a lot tougher. And we'll be here with you on Sunday. As soon as the game is over, myself, Lauren Cox, and Adam Sager will be with you for our post-game squad show. We'll be back with you guys starting again next Tuesday night at 6:15. So thank you all for watching. Remember, hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Thanks for listening to Apple on Apple and Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And if you're checking us out for the first time, thank you to that as well. Talk to you guys on Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Peace.